Title: The Equation of Respect. The Marcus Ellison story. In a quiet suburb just outside Atlanta, nestled between crumbling sidewalks and chain-linked fences, there lived a boy who saw numbers as poetry. Marcus Ellison was 15 years old, black, quiet, and brilliant. He lived in a small two-bedroom apartment with his mother, a nurse who worked double shifts, and he carried with him an invisible weight, not just of poverty or responsibility, but of expectations, assumptions, and the pain of being underestimated. On the surface, Marcus blended into the crowd at Westfield High. He wasn't flashy. He didn't speak up unless prompted. But behind his deep brown eyes swirled equations, theories, and abstract patterns that even the most seasoned educators might struggle to grasp. Unfortunately, Mrs. Harriet Whitaker, his advanced calculus teacher, wasn't one of those educators who nurtured hidden genius. She was the gatekeeper of a realm she believed belonged to a very specific kind of student, one Marcus didn't resemble. The conflict started small, with ignored hand raises and pointed glances. It escalated the day he corrected one of her mistakes on the board, not boastfully, not rudely, just factually. Instead of thanking him, she made him stay after class and move a rusted filing cabinet, injuring his lower back in the process. From then on, he was punished not just for being late, though his bus often was, but for existing in her space as a contradiction to her assumptions. She made him stand during entire 90-minute periods, even though he had a note from his doctor about his injury. "You should have arrived on time," she'd sneer, her tone wrapped in faux professionalism but dripping with bias. "That seat is reserved," she'd say. Even when the room had empty chairs, Marcus endured in silence. Not because he was weak, but because he knew battles should be chosen wisely. He had already learned the hard way that brilliance, when poorly received, often led to suffering. Instead, he found refuge in the office of Dr. Lena Chapman, the school counselor. There, during lunch, he could eat without whispers and stares. There, he could breathe at night. When his mother returned from her hospital shifts, her scrubs smelling faintly of antiseptic, she would watch her son rub his lower back, chewing painkillers like candy. "She made you stand again, didn't she?" she asked one night. Marcus nodded. "She says I'm always late." "You're late because that bus breaks down every other day, and she knows that." "This isn't about rules, baby. It's about you." Marcus stared at the pile of textbooks in front of him. "She's planning something," he muttered. "I heard her talking to Mr. Tate. She wants to humiliate me." His uncle, Xavier Ellison, once a doctoral candidate in mathematics, now a mechanic after life dealt him a bad hand, had told Marcus he could transfer to Westridge Academy, a school with better resources and a math program that could support his talent. But Marcus resisted. "Why should I be the one to leave?" he asked his mother. "Why do we always have to move for them?" His mother sat next to him and looked at the notepad where Marcus had been scribbling elegant, tight solutions to advanced calculus problems, the kind no sophomore should be tackling with ease. "You're hiding what you can do just to make her comfortable," she whispered. "That's not your burden to carry." He made his decision that night. He wouldn't hide anymore. The next morning, he arrived to class 1 minute before the bell, greeted Mrs. Whitaker with careful politeness, and sat down. The desk she had previously labeled reserved was suddenly available. Her eyes sparkled with something dangerous. "Today," she announced, "we're going to try a college-level problem. One that comes from MIT's advanced entrance exam." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Ellison, since you find our curriculum so elementary, perhaps you'd like to show us how you approach this?" Gasps filled the room. The equation she wrote covered 3 white bars. It was a problem designed to break students who relied on memorization instead of deep understanding. Multivariable calculus with optimization constraints. Marcus stood slowly, his back flaring with pain. But his voice was clear. "Actually, Mrs. Whitaker, there's an error in your initial conditions." A few students chuckled. Others fell silent. She glared at him, but erased the board and rewrote the question. "Fine," she said. "If you think you're so capable, solve it now, in front of the class. If you succeed, I'll exempt you from the final with an A. If not, You'll receive a 0 for participation this quarter. Don't do it, Jeremy Lau, another top student, whispered. It's a trap. But Marcus just nodded. I accept. He approached the board and claimed all 3 sections. I don't need 90 minutes, he said calmly. His classmates whispered, stunned. Then he began. First, he demonstrated the standard method taught at the university level. Then he pivoted, introducing an alternate coordinate transformation method he had picked up from a grad-level textbook his uncle gave him. By the time he started a third solution using a vector calculus approach he developed on his own, the room was dead silent. Mrs. Whitaker sat frozen. The fourth solution came in a wave of pain. Marcus dropped the marker briefly as a spasm coursed through his spine, but he recovered, finished the equation, and said simply, I believe that satisfies the challenge. Dr. Chapman had appeared during the lesson, followed by Principal Dean and Mr. Reynolds, the head of the math department. They stared at the whiteboards in disbelief. My God, Mr. Reynolds whispered. This is elegant. Who taught you this? No one, Marcus replied. I figured it out last night. Phone snapped pictures. The story exploded across the district by afternoon. Mrs. Whitaker was placed on administrative review. Marcus was transferred to an elite seminar class with Mr. Reynolds. Invitations began to pour in. The MIT Summer Institute, early admission inquiries from Princeton, a call from Stanford's honors program, a disciplinary board meeting. Mrs. Whitaker defended herself. He didn't fit the profile. His record, his address. You mean he was black and brilliant? Uncle Xavier interrupted coldly. Marcus sat through it all, quiet but resolute. When asked if he had anything to say, he stood carefully and faced the panel. I didn't ask to be tested like that. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to be challenged, not punished. I've been shrinking myself for months, hiding what I can do because I saw how it made people uncomfortable. That's not education. That's survival. The board concluded Mrs. Whitaker would keep her job but be placed on a probationary period, required to undergo intensive equity and sensitivity training. 2 weeks later, she asked for a meeting with Marcus. He agreed, cautiously. I was wrong, she admitted. You've changed how I see my students. I hope you'll let me learn from you. He paused, then handed her his fourth solution. I've refined it. There's a geometric application I'd like your thoughts on. In July, under the vaulted ceilings of MIT's lecture hall, Marcus stood at the board, explaining his theorem to a room full of graduate students, professors, and other young prodigies. In the back row, Mrs. Whitaker took notes, not as a gatekeeper, but as a student. His mother sat front row, tears in her eyes. You stood when it hurt, she told him afterward. Now they see you. Now they all see you. And as Marcus gazed out at the whiteboard, where his own ideas had reshaped an equation once designed to crush him, he smiled, because sometimes the most elegant solutions come from the ones they never saw coming.